Okay, let's dive in. Gonna go over all of the mini set cards here and see what we should be expecting in a couple of days. See what the new best decks might be looking like. It's all gonna be speculation, obviously, but we're gonna be able to make an educated guess and whatnot. So let's dive right in.
You are not prepared.
Starting off with the neutral cards. The only neutral cards we're getting is Grunty. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense because all of the other neutral cards are actually triple classed instead, so they're not exactly neutral. That makes some sense. Guess we're gonna be able to see them across all the classes over and over again, so yeah, it makes some sense, I guess. Let's go back to Grunty then. Grunty is gonna be an 8-mana free 4 Murloc. Battlecry, summon 4 random Murlocs, then shoot them at enemy minions and you pick the targets. Sounds like a decent card. I'm not sure what exactly is going to be running such a card, however. Maybe some kind of Murloc deck is going to be emerging. It is a Battlecry minion, so is that worth playing from a Murmur? I'd say probably no. And you shooting your Murlocs at enemy minions, that's not going to straight up kill them. It's going to trade with them, basically. And if they live, they're actually going to be on the board for you, so that's going to be a decent board build, but not sure that this is a very, very amazing card. I don't think it's gonna be too meta. Like, off the top of my head, I'm not really sure I can fit this into right about any archetype right about now. Yeah, I'm not very excited about this one, and neither is the community so far. 18 votes in at least. Well, moving down to Death Knight. Death Knight is gonna be a Zerg class. And here it would be a good idea to start off with the Zerglings, I'd say. Okay, so we can see some of the neutral Zerg cards. We have the Brood Queen. She is a free mana 2/5. At the end of your turn, get a larva that transforms into a random Zerg. From what I can tell, the Zergs are pretty decent, and this can also give you from the other classes. So there are plenty of different Zergs. And they all kind of try to do that. Zerg the opponent with a bunch of stats, decent phase damage buffs and that kind of deal. So this should be a decent card. It's also what Kerrigan is going to be summoning, so that's going to be quite the bomb turn. All around, free mana 2/5s do tend to be decently powerful, and this is at the end of your turn effect, so it's not a death rattle, it's not a battle cry. You're going to be getting a lot of extra stuff like this. So I do believe this should be quite powerful. Here's what the larva looks like. And get means this thing is going into your hand, I'm assuming. But yeah, it basically gives you a bunch of steam for you to actually keep your push going, keep on zerging the opponent. We also have the spawning pool as another location that all 4 classes are going to be able to use. That would be Death Knight, Warlock, Demon Hunter, and Hunter. And this thing is a 1 mana with 2 charges location. Get a 1/1 Zergling, and the death rattle is your Zerg minions have rush this turn. So you play this on 1, use it, and on turn 3 you can use it again. Give all of your idiots rush. That would be kinda hot. And also, these are what the Zerglings look like. It's a 1 mana 1/1, but the Battlecry summon a copy of this. So for instance, something like a Death Knight, which loves buffing, that would be pretty strong. I'd say something like a Grunter Hunter could make Zerglings their main priority, like get some pretty big Zerglings that way. That might be pretty good. So it definitely has a lot of good potential for the Zerg class all around. We also have the free mana Nidus Worm. Draw 2 Zerg cards, they cost 1 less. Again, pretty good arcane intellect kind of card, but with the added benefit of it being targeted, so you're basically tethering Zerg cards out like that, and also giving them the discount. Pretty strong. Definitely screams 20-25 power creep level of free drop. Would be a pretty staple card for all Zerg decks, I do believe. That's about it for the neutral cards, so now we can move down to the... And we also have the 7 mana Kerrigan, of course, as the last neutral card. She's the hero card for the 4 classes, and she is a 7 mana 5 armor gain. Battlecry, summon 2 2/5 Brood Queens. Deal free damage to all enemies. Pretty good. This thing goes face. You also get a couple of these things that instantly give you a couple of larvas in your hand for them to start transforming into random Zerg minions. So, very hot. Very hot. You can't have Zerglings in hand buff Pally because Pally is not a Zerg class. Warlock, Death Knight, Demon Hunter, and Hunter are the Zerg classes, so I don't think you get to abuse Zerglings too much as a warrior. As a pally, that is. After all, that's why we have this little thing at the side. That means it's a faction card, so this would be the 4 classes for this faction. Deal 3 damage randomly split among all enemies. Improves by Zerg minions you control. So this thing could be doing as much as 10 damage split against all enemies. That can be pretty solid. It's for 2 mana, definitely very well priced. And by very well, I mean it kind of sounds broken. Moving down to the Death Knight cards itself, we have the 1 mana Baneling Barrage. This is a spell for Death Knight without any runes on it. Get a 1/1 Baneling. I'm so good at reading. Baneling, what the fuck is a Baneling? Get a 1/1 Baneling that explodes. If you control a Zerg minion, get another Baneling. Okay. This is what the Baneling looks like. Death Rattle, deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. Interesting. Again, kind of screaming hand buff, as I expected. Death Knight is getting some decent support for the hand buff archetypes they have been desperately trying to make work and so far failed miserably. This might be the push they actually need in order to really get their point across. It's a little bit slow, but once you buff it a little bit, 3 damage AoE would be pretty strong as soon as turn 4-5. That kind of deal should be quite decent. We also have the 3 mana 3/2 Infestor. It's a Death Rattle. Your Zerg minions have +1/+1 for the rest of the game. Oh my goodness, this thing with a Yadler? This thing with a Reborn? That's gonna be strong, yo. Like, this is an effect. This is not your Zergs in hand deck and battlefield get the +1. This is like, what's her face? This is like Eliza. So anything you summon after that still gets the +1. And more realistically, the +6, because if you reborn this, if you trigger it twice, then it dies, that's gonna be easily going out of hand. So this is quite the strong card, man. Death Knight is looking quite promising, I can tell you that much. And lastly, we also have the 4 mana Viper. It's a 5/3 Battlecry. Summon a minion from your opponent's hand. Your other Zerg minions gain reborn and attack it. That's disgusting. That is like Dirty Rat in 2025, yo. That is absolutely disgusting. That is obscene. The best card in the set. This is literally the first class I'm reviewing, and this card is looking absolute solid. Absolute gold right there. Yeah, I do believe some hand buff Death Knight is gonna be strong as hell. Hand buff Zerg Death Knight is gonna be quite the solid deck on day 1. And I can already say this is one of the decks I should be trying on day 1 because it's very promising. Moving down to another Zerg class, let's move to Demon Hunter. While we're still on that page, here we can see 2 mana Creep Tumor. Your Zerg minions have +1 and Rush lasts 3 turns. So this is like an aura. Kinda strong as well with all of the random Zergs you could be getting. Being able to rush them down straight up and also having the extra attack looks pretty solid. And this with a Zergling, I'd assume it's gonna work same as the Growthin. This thing is gonna be a 2/1 and it's gonna summon a 3/1 and they both get the rush. Pretty good card in a board-centric deck like that. Who knows, maybe the board is gonna start mattering again. We also have a 4 mana Lurker. After a friendly minion attacks, deal 1 damage to a random enemy, or 2 if your minion is a Zerg. And this is a 2/6. 4 mana 2/6, pretty solid stats. So it doesn't matter what kind of minion attacks, it deals at least 1 damage, but obviously you're gonna want this as a Zerg minion. And if you have this thing active, you have a bunch of these in hand, you're gonna be able to do a decent amount of damage this way, like damn. Things are gonna be rushing down, and this is gonna start slapping face. Kinda reminds me a little bit of that Naga Demon Hunter from a while ago. Again, kind of same vibe. Community doesn't feel like this card is that strong, but I do believe this should be quite solid. And lastly, we have a 4 mana 5/2 Mutalisk. Also damages minions next to whomever this attacks, and the enemy hero if a neighbor is missing. Why are you trying to brain fuck me right now with this? What does this mean? So we need to actually position taunts in the middle against Demon Hunters, is that it? So you set this thing up with the 2 mana Tumor and this becomes a 6/2 straight up rushy. As soon as turn 5. It could also be a 7 if you set a couple of these. So as soon as turn 5, or even as soon as... No, white turn 5. Like, you can literally do this on turn 4 or turn 3 even. This is kind of insane, man. This set is absolutely amazing. Absolutely power creeping the shit out of it. As soon as turn 3 or 4, you could be slapping 3 1/1s. Okay, it's not that bad actually. You can, if the board has only a single 1/1 on the board, as soon as turn 3 with this thing active, you could slap it for 12 damage to the face that way. That's kind of broken, man. That is gonna be strong. That should be strong. How many different ways could we buff this guy with though? We have the 0 mana +1, I guess. We have this. What else we have to buff it up? Not much, I guess. Not that much as a Demon Hunter. But yeah, this thing is kind of sick. You don't even need this to activate it. If you have this on 1, use it. Use it on turn 3, coin this guy. Your Zerg minions have Rush. You can still clap for 10 damage if there's a single minion. So yeah, again, looking pretty strong. Moving down to Hunter as the 3rd Zerg class. Let's see what they are going to be working with. We have the 2 mana Evolution Chamber. Give your minions +1 attack. Give your Zerg an extra +1. So this is only for the board. And for Zerg minions, it actually gives them 1 health as well. And a total of 2 health in total. Total. Kinda good. Kinda good, but let's see what the other cards are. We also have a 3 mana Hydralisk? I don't know. It's a 3 mana 4/2 battle cry. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Repeat for each other Zerg minion you control. Damn, boy, that's gonna be a lot of damage with these Zerglings and shit. With the Brood Queens, but it's not something you're gonna be tempoing out as soon as turn 3 now, is it? Then again, as soon as turn 3, or more like 4, you could actually combo it off with a couple of Zerglings and deal like 8 damage that way. Still, it's not exactly super broken like that. It does look strong though. Definitely looks strong, but I think so far the cards we've seen for the other classes were even stronger, so I guess that's gonna be the norm. We also have a 2 mana Roach. When you draw this, get a copy of it. Battle Cry, if you control another Zerg minion, gain +1/+2. So if you have a Zerg on the board, draw this and you get a couple of 3/4 for 2 mana each. Decent. And with this in mind, when you start plopping these on the boards, they're gonna become 5/5s. Not bad. All these years I was talking about how you can Zerg the board, and finally, for some of you, that's gonna start making some sense, because not everybody played StarCraft back in the day. So yeah, when I said Zerg the board, this is what I mean. Yeah, all things considered, I think the Zerg classes are looking hella fine, and we have Warlock last. As a Zerg class. Let's see if he is as broken as the others. Here we have a 1 mana Consume. It's a spell, remove 1 durability from a friendly location to restore 8 health to your hero. On face value, does not seem that amazing, but given that the other card is a 3 mana location with 3 charges, that deals 1 damage to all enemies and has a Death Rattle summon an 8/8 Ultralisk with Rush, it all starts making sense now, because you are going to be happy consuming this thing, so you can actually get yourself a big man 8/8. Nice and quick like that. It's an 8/8 Rush for 8 mana, but you don't spend that mana, because it actually gets summoned for you for free, and it's ready to do whatever. Looks decent. Both are going to work decently well. I'm not sure what exactly Zerg Warlock we're going to be witnessing. Maybe the last card is going to help us get the gist of it. It's a 2 mana Spine Crawler. It's a 1/6 taunt, can't attack, has +3 attack if you control a location. Out of the 4 classes, I'd say this has the weakest package out of the lot. I don't know, I'm not really seeing the Zerg things picking up for Warlock as much. I don't see this working too well in Pain Warlock. Does it work well in Fatigue? Perhaps it gives you a little bit of healing, so that's something to think about. I don't see it in Hand Warlock. No, I don't think this is strong enough to build an archetype of its own either. Nah, I don't like it as much. So yeah, out of the four Zerg classes, I'd say this is the weakest. Moving down to the Protos, starting off with Druid. Let's see what Druid shenanigans we're gonna be facing, and let's look at the neutral cards first for the four classes here. We have the 2 mana Photon Cannon, which would be a Deal 3 damage if this kills a minion. Your Protoss minions costs 1 less this game, which is kind of solid. This is basically the main way the other classes are going to be able to actually play their 12 mana big boy cards. And being able to discover extra copies of these would also be pretty strong with things like, let's say, the Tidepool Pupil, all sorts of other ways to discover it and whatnot, so definitely looks pretty solid. We also have the Void Ray. It's a 3 mana free one. It's a mech and it has Rush, Divine Shield, Battlecry. If this costs 0, gain +2/+2. By the time this thing costs 0, it's not going to be that effective, I'd say, but it is a neutral card. I still haven't seen the other cards exactly what they're doing. So it's probably not going to be as hard to actually get this thing down to 0. Like, for instance, we can already see single Photon Cannons, 0 mana Construct Pylons, and this thing goes down to 0 as soon as turn literally 2. So that could be pretty saucy. Getting a turn 2 5/3 Divine Shield Rush, kind of strong, kind of strong. The other neutral card is going to be the Chrono Boost. Draw 2 Protos cards, summon a 3/4 Zealot with Charge. Draw 2 Protos cards, summon a 3/4 Zealot with Charge for 4 mana. This is again looking like the Arcane Intellect action, but instead this thing costs 1 more for the added benefit of getting a 3/4 Zealot. Kinda decent, kinda decent. Again, tethering out some of them good Protos cards that way. Should be stitching your plan together nice and well. Definitely is going to be a great card to be keeping if you're going for the Protoss game plan. I can see that working out beautifully. And lastly, we have the hero card for the Protoss. It is the 7 mana 5 armor gain Artanis with a Battlecry. Summon a couple of 3/4 Zealots with Charge. Your Protoss minions costs 2 less this game. Okay, so easily you can discount all of your Protoss minions by 4, and you could even get even more with some shenanigans going, but even just hero card allows you to play your big boy 12 cards, so it's not going to be as hard pulling that off as it initially seemed. Then again, we're a druid. It's not like we're going to pretend we're not going to have a gajillion mana anyway on turn 6, so there's that too. Artanis is going to be giving a friendly minion and your hero +1 attack this turn and Divine Shield. Cool. Kind of weird that this is not a pally card, but I guess these classes also enjoy some of that plus attack Divine Shield nonsense. Looks good. Looks good. Okay, moving down to the Druid cards. Starting off with the Carrier, I guess. We have a 12 mana 2/14 mech. At the end of your turn, summon 4/4/1 Interceptors that attack random enemies. This is kind of strong. It's kind of strong. My initial thought about this was it's going to be great in Dungar Druid, but when you think about it, you're not going to have enough board space to get the full utility out of the Carrier. But then again, would you be really sad if you still summon a 2/14 and only 3/4/1s that can go face? Probably not so much. So it still might actually fit that thing, but it might just be a whole new Protoss ramp Druid kind of deal. Should be kind of cool. And can you get some copies out of this? Surely you could somehow. Probably not something I can freestyle just now. Should be decent. Should be decent. Should be seeing play. It's a Druid card, so you're going to be able to play this thing as soon as turn 7 if things go your way. So that should be quite the powerhouse for against most classes. We also have a 7 mana 5/8 mech, Immortal. This thing is a Taunt, Divine Shield, Battlecry, spend 4 mana to double this minion's stats. So it could go up to 11 if you haven't discounted anyway. And it's gonna become straight up a 10/16 Taunt, Divine Shield. Kinda strong, kinda strong. And the way you spend this is basically if you have the mana left, it is gonna spend it for you. So definitely try to sequence your turn well. And with all the discounts you have at your disposal, you should be able to do this obscenely early. Especially given the last card here is the 4 mana Warp Gate. Your next Protoss minion costs 3 less. So let's say you ramped on turn 3. You play this on turn 4. On turn 5 you have 6 mana anyway. Use this thing. This guy becomes a 4-drop. Still not playable straight up, but maybe if you did a Photon, it becomes a 3-drop. Almost there. Probably as soon as turn 6 you can get this down kind of easily. with the help of the location at least, so kind of looks strong, but it's gonna come down to how strong the Protoss thing is. Kind of looks decent, especially with the 0 mana construct pylon. Yeah, you can definitely make it as soon as turn 5, but let's not pretend you're going to be curving out that beautifully each game, so there's that too. Moving down to the next Protoss class, let's say Mage. Let's see what they're going to be working with. Their 12 mana card here would be the Colossus. 12 mana 9/4 mech, deal 1 damage to all enemies twice. Improved by Protoss spells you cast this game. Okay, so what are the Protoss spells we have? Photon Cannon? The 0 mana thing? No, the 0 mana thing was a Druid card only. So Photon Cannon, this thing, 3 mana Resource Coil, it's a 3 mana spell, deal 5 damage to a minion, get a random Protoss spell. So that can be from all classes, right? Sadly, it's just get, not discover, so it's not as OP, but still pretty strong if you ask me. And we also have Shield Barrier for 2 mana, gain 6 armor, your next Protoss spell costs 2 less. I guess you can do this on turn 3, play this thing as well, or do this on turn 2, do this as well. Yeah, the Protoss things are comboing off really beautifully, I'd say, and the Colossus soaking up all of that damage twice to all enemies nonetheless should be kind of huge. The only downside here is you don't have that many ways to actually discount this bad boy. Yeah, you do have a couple of cannons, you have the Warp Gate, so let's say you curved out beautifully, you discount this twice, goes down to 10, I guess you can do it as soon as turn 7, and by then, how much damage would that be? I guess a decent chunk. It would be a decent chunk, like if you got a couple of these, that's 3 damage already. If you got some perfect situation, 4 of these, it goes up to 7, so 14 damage like that, and you have 2 copies of this thing. Kinda good. It's in a Mage after all, so you will be able to control nicely. So I do believe some Protoss Mage might be in the cards for the class. And also, let's not forget Artanis can discount this by 2 as well, so these things could be as low as 5 mana with the help of Wargate, and that's not even putting into account you could get yourself extra Photon Cannons with things like the Noggling and whatnot, so yeah, it definitely holds merit. Let's move to the next Protoss class. I guess Priest, let's get it out of the way. Fun fact, I could have actually revealed a Priest card instead of a Terran Pally card. So I dodged the bullet there now, didn't I? Thank God I was in time to answer that question. Moving to the Priest cards, we have a 1 mana Hallucination. It's a spell, summon a copy of a friendly Protoss minion. It takes double damage. Summon a copy of a friendly Protoss minion, it takes double damage. I guess the idea behind this thing is you probably want to summon the Mothership, which is a 12 mana 10/10, Taunt, Battlecry, and Death Rattle. Get 2 random Protoss minions. Is that even good? You don't summon them, you get them. The hell? That's kind of horrible, isn't it? That is sounding absolutely horrible. Even getting a copy of it, yeah, like it's gonna be a value house, but nowadays, value is considered when you summon the thing, not when you get it in your hand. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. The other Priest card here would be Sentry. It's a 2 mana 2/2 mech, Lifesteal, Death Rattle. Your Protoss minions costs 1 less this game. I mean, cool, but I don't know, dude. Priest is getting shafted yet again, I do believe. And what you gonna do? I myself am not gonna lose too much sleep over it, but yeah, kinda weird. What other use case scenarios does this card have, however? I don't think the Mothership is going to be making the cut too much, but I think this thing might actually be kind of cool. Summon a copy of a friendly... Oh, it's only for Protoss minions. Well, fuck that. I guess it's useless. I guess the only use case scenario would be for the Mothership. Or I guess if you get some random 12s out of this, but I don't think the game's going to last that long for Priest, so yeah, I'm not really vibing with this one so far. Priest and Warlock so far look pretty lackluster for the mini set, in my opinion. And lastly, for Protoss, we have Rogues. And here we can see Blink. I already saw J. Alex was not exactly happy about what Rogue is going to be getting, but then again, when has he been? Shots fired or something, I don't know. But yeah, 2 mana Blink, draw a Protoss minion, combo, it costs less. 2 less. We also have a 6 mana Dark Templar. Stealth, Battlecry, destroy an enemy minion. Play another Templar to merge into an Archon. And the Archon is 8 mana, 8/8. At the end of your turn, deal 8 damage to the enemy hero and 2 damage to their minions. Okay. Okay. With all the Shadow Step shenanigans and whatnot, how strong is this? It's at the end of turn effect. It's an 8 mana, 8/8. Rogues love those, right? I guess you can play this, leave it stealthed. Next turn, go face with it or something. Shadow Step, play it again. I guess in a same turn with the help of Shadow Step, you will be able to do this easily, especially if you actually discount it with Artanis and Blink and whatnot, as well as the Photon Cannon and such. Could be quite strong. You will be able to get like 16 damage to the face easily as a rogue. Not sure how fast you can do that, but probably around turn 7 or 8. Something along those lines definitely sounds very doable. So this guy's going to be destroying enemy minions. And it's targeted, it's not random. As for the High Templar, he's going to be a Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all enemies. He's a 6 mana free 5, no stealth here, however. I guess with the Shadow Step again, goes down to 4 mana straight up with the Shadow Step. With the help of Photon Cannons, it could be down to 2 mana even. With the help of Artanis, even lower. Kind of looks promising. Not as promising as Death Knight. Definitely a lot more promising than Priest and Warlock, however. I think it's crazy enough to work with the help of Warp Gate. You are going to be able to discount these. With the help of the Artanis, you're going to discount. Plenty of discounts for Rogue, so they love cheating mana, and cheating mana they will. That's about it for the Protos cards. Priest seems to be the big loser out of those. Mage looks hella promising. Druid and Rogue look pretty interesting. Should be quite saucy. And lastly, we go down to Terrans. Let's start off with Paladins, since I did reveal those cards myself. I feel like I have a vested interest in these. Let's start off with the neutrals. We have the 1 mana SCV. Battlecry, your next Starship launch costs 2 less. That's going to be pretty important, given what Jim Raynor is going to be doing in this one. He's a 7 mana 5 armor game. Battlecry, relaunch every Starship that you launch this game. I'd assume you're not going to be playing this guy on curve. You're going to play him around turn 8, 9, 10, that kind of deal. A little bit slow if you ask me, especially given what cards Pally is getting. They kind of strike me as the Flood type. So there's that, but yeah, the 1 mana SCV, it's also a mech, so that's pretty nice. And also getting yourself a 1 mana launch Starship sounds pretty huge. The other neutral card here would be the 3 mana Liftoff. That's a 3 mana, draw 2 Terran cards, summon a 2/1 Starship piece with an effect when launched. I guess they didn't have room to write a random effect, because the random effects are going to be... Oh, it's not going to be those. It's actually going to be these 5. When this is launched, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. When this is launched, deal 2 damage to all enemies. When this is launched, summon 2 2/2 Marines with Taunt. Gain 3 random bonus effects. I guess these are the bonus effects I was thinking about with Stealth, Poisonous, Rush, Lifesteal, Elusive, all of that nonsense. I guess Rush would be pretty solid there. And lastly, we have gain 7 armor. Yes, kind of fine. And this is the 2 mana 2/2 Marine you could be summoning out of this, I guess. Kind of good. All of these are happening when launched, and this thing can go phase, this thing goes everywhere. I mean, everywhere for the enemy, it doesn't kill your stuff, so that's even better. Yeah, looks solid. It's also straight up summoning you a Starship piece, which is basically a 2-drop. Well, no, now that I said it, it's not really a 2-drop, it's a 2-drop when launched, but when summoned, it's just gonna be a 2/1 mech do nothing, because this only works when launched, so has to die for it to be able to launch afterwards. So again, definitely are getting a pretty nice value for the mana. 3 mana, draw 2 cards you're looking for as a Terran player. Should be pretty hot, and getting that extra bonus, definitely Arcane Intellect on steroids. We also have the location, 2 mana Starport, which is having 2 charges, and it also summons you a 2/1 Starship piece with an effect when launched. So again, it's a 2 mana summon you a 1-drop, but when you launch that thing, it's gonna be pretty solid with all of these random effects. Should be decent. We lastly, as a neutral card, have the 4 mana 6/2 Ghost. Well, I mean, we also have the hero card, obviously, but I already talked about it, so whatever. We have the 4 mana 6/2 Ghost, Stealth, Battlecry. If you're building a starship, destroy the lowest cost card in your opponent's hand. Pretty good, pretty good. You could destroy the opponent's coins, Shadow Steps, Preps, all of those important key elements for some of them decks. Could be pretty solid. It's also a Stealth with pretty fat stats. A nice little tech card for you. Removing the opponent's value is always good in my book, so that should be pretty good. But you gotta be building a starship, which is not gonna be that hard given you have Liftoff summoning you a starship, Starport summoning you a starship, and obviously the class cards also are doing some stuff, so should be pretty easy for this guy to be great even as soon as turn 3 with the coin. Shouldn't be too hard for you. And like I said, we have Jim Raynor, which is going to be relaunching every starship you launched this game, and on curve around turn 7 you should be able to summon a couple of starships like that. So that could be pretty huge. And now that I said it, I forgot to mention what these guys' hero powers are doing. This guy is going to be summoning you a 2/2 Marine with Taunt, and gives your Terran minions +2 attack. Okay, with that out of the way, now we get to see the actual Pally cards. I mean, you already seen them, right? You did watch my reveal video, right? If you haven't, you might want to give it a check. It was kind of funny. But yeah, we have the 2 mana 1/1 mech, Starship piece, Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each other friendly minion. Also trigger on launch. So this thing on curve is not going to be that big, like on turn 2. Maybe you have a couple of minions already if you got lucky, so it's going to be up to a +3/+3. But when the starship thing launches, this thing is going to reset back to a 1/1, and it's going to take into account the other minions you have at the point of this guy launching. So it can still become decently big on that turn. Kinda okay. Feel like people have rated this very highly. Looks like an okay card, but I wouldn't really write home about it. I don't know, you tell me, am I missing something here? It's kind of a cool card. Kind of speaks to Flood Pallies. So I guess time will tell how strong this one is, really. We also have the 3 mana Salvage the Bunker. It's a summon 2/2 Marines with Taunt, and your next starship launch costs 2 less. Again, combos off extremely well with SCV and such. You could get yourself a 0 mana starship launch literally as soon as turn 3, but then again, what is this starship you're launching on turn 3? But yeah, getting a 0 definitely would be pretty solid. And lastly for Pally, we have Hellion. Your other minions have +1 attack. Transforms if you launch the starship this game, not build, but launched. And this thing is going to become your other minions have +2 attack and rush. And this is not only for Terran minions, this is for all minions. So like I said, looks pretty solid for a Flood Pally. But what exactly a starship Flood Pally is going to be looking like, my guess is as good as yours. All around the package does look solid. I wouldn't really rate it as high as people have, however. It looks decent, but given what I've seen so far with Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Mage, don't think this is as strong as those are, but maybe the whole class would bring the whole thing together better. Moving down to Warrior, or no, let's say Shaman, where is always the butt of the joke, isn't it? More like the butt of the video. So yeah, moving down to Shaman, we have the 1 mana Lock On. Set a minion's health to 1. Your next starship launch costs 2 less. I guess it's kind of decent. Sadly, you can't make it for it to deal damage. Could have been kind of cool if this dealt the 1 damage if you're building a starship or something like that, but might have been a bit too strong. I mean, it already looks pretty strong. Let's not try to make it even better. You could use this on your own thing too if if the situation calls for it. So technically you could even use it on a hero power or something if you're just doing it for the next starship launch to cost 2 less. But obviously a lot of the times you're going to be using this offensively for the opponent's stuff, so there's that. Looks decent. We also have the 2-mana Missile Pod. And this is a starship piece. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Also triggers on launch. These are the cards we already revealed on the first video, by the way, but this indeed is going to be a full recap of all the cards, so we are going over them again. Honestly, this thing doesn't look that strong. I did make a bold claim that I'm expecting the class to receive a way to get this thing venomous somehow. Poisonous, that is, but from what we're seeing, that's only going to happen if you get lucky with the starport, with that one piece that could get poisonous, and that also needs to get poisonous, so odds of this actually rolling the Hail Mary poisonous AoE, not that high. It's not upgrading to deal even more damage depending on how much attack the starship piece has or anything. So it's kind of weak sauce if you ask me, but again, still kind of decent. And it is a battle cry for a 2-drop at least. It's actually doing quite well, so 2 mana, 1 for you, deal 1 damage to everything. Decent enough, I guess. And lastly, we have the Siege Tank. This is a 5 mana 5/5 mech. Battlecry, deal 10 damage to a random enemy minion. And if you have launched a starship, this is going to be dealing 10 damage to a random enemy minion, and the excess damage is going to be hitting the enemy hero. So all around, it's like if you've played Always Bigger Germonger on this thing, with the added intricacy of this thing targeting randomly. But if you're against a tokeny deck, you can expect a decent chunk of damage to be slapping the face. Can also go on Stealth Idiots, so that can be pretty strong. And if this thing goes on a Divine Shield, it's actually going to deal 9 damage to the opponent's face, because it's going to consider it dealt 1 damage to the minion, as far as I know. Do let me know in the comments, am I remembering this correctly? It's been a while since I've done that, but I think that's how it calculated it. Unless it still calculates depending on how much the target actually had. But no, I think it's going to be dealing 9 damage. I think I'm right about that one, but I could be wrong, as I often am. That's about it for the Shaman stuff. I wouldn't say it's too amazing. It's not looking that strong, kind of on the pally level if you gotta be completely honest. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out. And lastly, we have Warrior as promised. I think I've seen some of the cards they have and they looked promising. We have the 1 mana Concussive Shells. And this thing deals 2 damage and gains 2 armor. Your next starship launch costs 2 less again. So yeah, all the classes are getting this cheap-ish discount card that helps you launch the starship. Dealing the 2 damage is also not too bad. Gaining 2 armor, so a little bit of a bonus. Yeah, 2 mana, 1 mana, gain 2 armor, deal 2 damage, and also get the benefit. Very, very strong indeed. We also have the 4 mana Yamato Cannon. This was the Battlecruiser's thing. The starship piece, Battlecry, destroy a random enemy minion. Also triggers on launch. Definitely pretty good. Destroy a random enemy minion, and this thing also triggers on launch, so quite the powerhouse, isn't it? And lastly, we have the 8 mana 8/8 Tor. Battlecry, deal 5 damage. Transforms if you're building a starship. Battlecry, deal 5 damage. Repeat at a random enemy for each starship you've launched this game. Realistically, you're gonna be launching like what, 2? Maybe actually 4 with the help of Jim. Okay, I mean, that could be quite huge. Like, if you just launch a few starships and then repeat with Jim Raynor, this thing deals 25 damage randomly split, and you have 2 of them in the deck, and you could even get more. I guess that could be kind of busted. People are rating this quite low. I don't know, I think this is going to be better than people make it out to be. Out of the 3 classes, I'd say Warrior definitely kind of looks like the most promising out of the bunch. Chat just now informed me that actually Thor is not going to take into account Jim Raynor's launches, so this thing is more realistically going to be dealing 15 damage, not so much 25, so I guess it's not going to be as strong. But still decent enough for a deck like that, I'd say, for it to make the cut. But yeah, definitely is gonna hurt the power level given Jim Raynor is not gonna be buffing it. So yeah, that's about it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this full recap of all of the mini set cards, and do let me know in the comments below which class you are most excited about. Personally, I think Death Knight and Demon Hunter are looking quite strong. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.